All right, one of the first top voices on the show, Professor Jan Oberg, who's spoken about America's impending decline. Dr. Oberg, thanks much for speaking to me on India Sense. You're the director of the Transnational Foundation for Peace and Future Research, joining us from Sweden. Good to have you on the show, sir. Let me start by asking you, you've spoken about America's potential collapse just like the USSR. First of all, let me start by asking you, why do you think this will actually happen?
Well, that's very simple. The Eastern brother, the Soviet Union, went down, and so will the Western brother, because the West is retreating, as is natural, because all empires go down at some point. They go up and then they go down. There's no empires that last forever. And if you look at the indicators, you know, it is things like over-militarization. It's lack of legitimacy in the eyes of others, non-Westerners. It is a weaker economy. It is less cultural power. It is an eternal wish to, it seems, to dominate the world instead of joining and cooperate with the world. And that type of policy has never lasted forever. And it's overextension, you know, with 600 plus military bases, CIA all over the place, etc. These types of systems cannot survive. They have never survived in other empires either. So either the United States will adapt to a multipolar, multinodal, multicultural world, or it will become a periphery in the future. That is, you know, if you look into macro historians like Toynbee and others, you will find out that this is a totally natural process. And you better join the world instead of being confrontational to the rest of the world.
You've spoken about America's downfall. By all accounts, it seems like Donald Trump is hastening that entire process. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, the man is destroying the United States. But that's a very sad thing. I've never been anti-American or anti-Western. I'm a product of the West myself. I find it painful every day to see that this is beating up the world. Confrontation threatens militarization, interventions, bombing of Iran, what have you, instead of saying, can we solve some problems together? My prediction is that Mr. Trump will do enormous harm to the United States if he sits for the whole period, which is not sure that he does. And that it is almost shameful and tragic to see that the United States, which you can discuss whether it's a democracy or not, that the United States has not been able to come up with better candidates than him and Kamala Harris. You know, money runs the whole thing over there. It's not democracy in my view, but that's a long story. But the fact that they have not been able to recruit somebody more professional, more decent, more long-range thinking, and somebody who is not able to do the kind of, if you will, socioeconomic change revolution also in the United States that is needed for it in terms of infrastructure, etc. If they are not able to do that, things will go madly wrong. And, you know, what I really am looking into as the great threat is not the United States going down as such. All empires have done that before, as I said. The question is, what do we do in the West when they have seen in the White House and in Washington that the game is over? At that point, we don't have a Gorbachev. We have somebody who I call kakistocracy, also in Europe, that is leadership by the worst people and the least competent people. That is a very dangerous situation for the West. I can only pray that things will go well.
Most importantly, how do you think these tariffs are going to come back and hurt the American economy?
Oh, yes, of course it will, because, you know, countries will try to trade somewhere else with other countries. If you look at China, for instance, the percentage of China's foreign trade that is with the US has gone down over time. You know, the rest of the world is fully able. They're not doing it against the West, but in consequence of the Western policies or the US policies and EU policies. You just saw from the line in Beijing. These kinds of things are not ganging up against or threatening the West. These people are just saying we got to cooperate with others because we cannot cooperate with the West anymore. And of course, India will now, I expect, and I think it would be wise, to work much more with China than before. You have all reasons to work together in terms of culture and economic compatibility, etc. And I'm glad to see that there will be a top-level meeting very soon. But it's not because anybody hates the West or wants the West to go down. It's the West which is self-destructive. Its policies are self-destructive and have no analysis of long-term consequences. Look at the sanctions against Russia. Russia is the fourth biggest economy in the world now, or fifth, I'm not sure, depending how you measure, where everybody in the West thought that if we slam sanctions on Russia, they will go down. They will not go down. The whole thing is very bad politics with no analysis of consequences.
Dr. Oberg, this is India Sense, and the first and primary focus here is about India's rise. I have to ask you this: how soon will the fall of America lead to the kind of rise that we're talking about as far as India is concerned as the big superpower?
I think it will. I think it will. I mean, it's embedded in what I'm saying about the decline of the United States and the Western world, the US, NATO, and the European Union. It gives opportunities to the rest. I would like the West to buy into those opportunities. I cannot see why the United States and India cannot work together. Now, obviously, Mr. Trump thinks that if India is cooperating and China is cooperating still with Russia, they should be punished. Excuse me. And Madam von der Leyen sat in Beijing and said that China should put pressure on Russia to stop the war in Ukraine. This is bizarre. This is absurd, because the Western world has decided, particularly Europe, not even to apply diplomacy to Putin and Russia, but saying, well, the only thing we do is sanctions, arming Ukraine to defeat Russia. I mean, this is a bizarre theory. It has nothing to do with reality, and these people are doing emotionalism, not politics anymore. I firmly believe that you cannot understand the world by international relations or political science and that type of stuff. It's all into psychology now. It is a psychology of losing. It's a psychology of projection of our own bad sides on everybody else, etc. And that is a very tragic development. I repeat, it's very tragic, because the world could be such a wonderful place today where we work together, many different cultures, many different economies. We put it together, unity and diversity. I mean, you know that concept. If you say, I would say, as a Gandhian inspired person, I would say this is all we could do. We could do fantastic things together in this world, but you cannot get the Western world to cooperate. It wants to do self-destructive isolation. And that is very, very tragic.
Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much, Dr. Oberg, for speaking to me on India Sense.